Tracy Mugley, she's with the Saskatoon Health Region. Welcome, Tracy. Candice Wascase Lafferty, she's with the University of Saskatchewan. And then we have, where'd your name go? Candice Scrappick from Saskatoon Council on Aging. And then we have Father Andre, who's with the Straight Up program. And then over there we have, my furthest is Sultan Ali, and he's with the Open Door Society. So a good cross-section of community folks that represent different constituents and our citizens here as well. So we've asked them, and they had these questions beforehand to ponder and to see what it is. And what we want to look at today is the commissioners want to get a feeling of how do you create that culture of safety in the community. And where are the citizens, how do they feel about that, and what's their vision of how to get there. So they've had the opportunity to ponder these questions for a little bit, and I'm just going to go first off right to Candice from the Council on Aging. You're going to get the first question. And the question is, over the last little bit of time, what significant changes have you seen in the area of community safety in Saskatoon? And how has that impacted the community overall, especially if you think about the Council of Aging? And it could be good or bad, right? We need to hear everything. Candice.
Thank you very much, and I want to first of all just express thank you for inviting the Saskatoon Council on Aging to be part of the panel this evening. And I want to talk a little bit about who we represent, which are older adults in the Saskatoon and environs. And to say, first of all, that that's a growing demographic. Within the next short period of time, about a quarter of our population will be over the age of 65. So when we look at that number of older adults, we look at a group of great diversity. So we have now 3 generations of older adults. As you would describe children, youth, and adults, there are younger seniors, mid-seniors, and older seniors. So from 55 to 105, from the very rich to the very poor, from the very well to the very ill, and across all cultures and demographics. So it's a very big demographic. And the Saskatoon Council on Aging has been working to hear from older adults around the issues of interest to them and what would improve their quality of life. And that has been primarily through the work that we've been doing called the Age-Friendly Saskatoon Initiative. So in relation to safety, we have asked older adults to talk to us about their perceptions of safety and their areas of concern. Their perception of safety actually is their perceptions of feeling unsafe, if I put it that way, are greater than the reality of victimization. And so that's an interesting concept, and I think it will speak to later on when we talk about strategies for increasing public safety, because there are ways that I think we can work with older adults to reduce that perception of an unsafe city. It relates to the increase in population in our city and what that brings with it that the chief described. And it speaks to increasing feelings of vulnerability as people age.
Thank you. Tracy, I'll get you to follow up on that one, speaking with your experience with the health region. What's your perceptions on safety in the community?
I guess I'd like to start out by first recognizing the Chief and the Mayor and Council, because we've done so much incredible work together in collaboration to actually create programs that help everyone in our community be safer, especially the people that are the most vulnerable. For example, people that are homeless and are probably at the highest risk of anyone for being injured out there. So I want to pass on my thanks for that. I think that a lot of what we can do to create safety in our community is by building relationships with each other so that we can work together. And the Chief talked about some of the programs that we've taken on, the Police and Crisis Team, where we have a mental health professional ride along with police so that we can make sure that we have an appropriate response to people who are struggling with mental illness and addictions And this is a smart thing economically too. We can actually save a lot of money by finding the right supports for people at the right time. So in a very short time, we've managed with that program to divert not only a lot of visits to the emergency department, but also divert a lot of arrests, because we're doing things in a more sensible way and supporting people. So that's some of those changes have been because we've been able to develop relationships. And I want to acknowledge Sherry Benson, who's here a couple years ago, might remember sitting around a table trying to figure out how we were going to address homelessness in our community, and thus the Saskatoon Plan to End Homelessness, and Housing First became a reality. And I think we know that people can't change their circumstances when they're dealing with mental health and addictions and maybe getting involved in the criminal justice system if they don't have a roof over their head. So there's a lot of preventative measures that we can take, and really what it's about is getting to that root cause to understand better. You know, people don't just decide one day, I'm going to be a criminal. There's a whole life history that people have that leads to situations where people feel either desperate or put themselves in situations that they might not otherwise had they had a good support system around them. So it's really, I think a significant change for us has been around building relationships with our police services, with a number of other organizations through the hub that we talked about before, with education, justice, social services, and ourselves, to make sure that we're being more intentional about how we help people so that ultimately we can reduce risk and prevent crime.
Excellent, thank you. I want to throw this one at you, but I think you're going to throw it to someone else. Father Andre represents exit kind of group, network, supports. And this is going to be a question I'm going to throw at you, but you're going to throw it to your buddy. Do you feel safe in Saskatoon?
Do I feel safe in Saskatoon? I don't go out at 2 o'clock in the morning like I used to 7, 8, 10 years ago. And if I were to do that, I would bring one of my friends with me. But we've come a long way, I think, since the Neil Stonechild experience, where at that time we really didn't know what was going on with the police force or the Saskatoon city. And today we've, and straight up, we've worked with over 250 young men and women who have left the gangs. About 150 have joined Straight Up and quite active in the movement. And I noticed that there are a few Straight Up people, don't run away, they're all ex-gang members, but they're okay, they're safe. And I would just simply like them to stand up to see how many are here. There's one right there, and the others, there's Faith. These are all. And the reason they're here is because it's Straight Up, it's their organization, it's not mine. We don't do anything without their presence. We've done over 2,000 presentations, and every one of them, our members were there. They need to do that because that's the way they're going to help and assist themselves to turn their lives around. And that's the way they're going to help and to help other young people to turn their lives around or prevent them from joining the gangs. What Straight Up is involved in is two things. There's three poles that the Saskatoon city has in terms of gangs. The first one is prevention, the second one is intervention, and the third one is suppression. Straight Up, we're involved in the first two, prevention and intervention, and we accomplish intervention, that is, our young people turning their lives around by helping young people not enter into the gangs. Those of us that are involved with Straight Up, it's 100% focus. That's what we all do, and we're committed to that 100%. In my last, Straight Up started officially in 2012. And since in the last 13 years, we all know that the population in Saskatoon has increased. There's more money in the city, there's more drugs, there's more violence, there's more inmates. Young people are joining the gangs at an early age. One of our members joined the gang at 9 years old. There's more Native people in the city, and 95% of our members are Native. The other 5%, some blacks, some white suppression group people, and so forth. One of the things that we also do is that the violence in Saskatoon has increased from our perspective. More people are getting shot, more people are getting stabbed, more people are getting beat up. And that involves a lot of the people from the gang. So it's a little bit of the stuff that we have to deal with. The three areas that we need to really work on is all our members are addicts, and nothing can happen until they deal with their addiction. So that's our number one. Number two is employment. Number three is education. And I asked my young friend Shane to sort of share a little bit of his response to this question.
Hey, good evening, everybody. My name's Shane Taysup. I'm a member of Straight Up. I live in Pleasant Hill area, the hood. I'm sure you guys all know where that is. And from my perspective, when they mention safety, I feel safe for myself, right? Because I have a perspective of what it's like out there, right? But I'm a father too, right? So I got a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old and a 5-month-old. Now, when they're sleeping at night and they hear a gunshot or they hear somebody 20 feet away fighting, you hear the fists hitting the body or whatever. They hear that. That's not safe. You know what I mean? Like, sure, crime may be down, but activity isn't. Things still happen. People still fight. I hear gunshots almost every couple nights, right? But what I just want to wrap it up here is what Tracy said is we need to create relationships in the community. That's vital. I'm there. I see this stuff. I hear this stuff. So I'm telling you guys, it's really important. Nobody needs to get hurt. Nobody needs to keep going to jail. Just start working together as a people. We can all get along. Thanks.
Well said. Now, I'm going to switch it to another parent that I know, Candace. Massey, couple kids, lived there all your life. How do you feel about safety in your community?
Well, I'm a Confed Park kid. I moved to Saskatoon when I was 16 years old. I came here from a reserve in southern Saskatchewan, went to Edithian High School. I told this story to someone today, and I'd kind of forgotten about it for a very, very long time. And with all the attention around murdered and missing women in Saskatchewan and across this country, do I feel safe in my neighborhood? I love my neighborhood. I've been there. I bought a home there in 1996. I've raised 2 sons there. One's 21. The other one is 17 years old, graduating from Mount Royal next week. People often ask me, you work at the University of Saskatchewan, why don't you move to the other side of the city closer to work? Wouldn't it be safer for you to raise your family there? Like I said, I love my neighborhood. I'm comfortable where I am. I like living amongst people who look like me, who work hard, who my children have friends with other First Nations kids in our neighborhood. That's important to me. Do I feel safe in my neighborhood? No. I have a treadmill I run in my basement. I was telling a fellow runner that. But many years ago, have things changed? Many years ago, I was used to bank at Bank of Montreal on the corner of 22nd Street and 2nd Avenue. I was 17 years old, and we couldn't get a parking spot, so I asked to be dropped off and had my buddy circle the block to pick me up. And I go in, I get some money out of the automated teller, I come out, and as I'm coming out, and this is 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday in downtown Saskatoon, I'm grabbed. My arms are pinned behind my back, and another man comes out with a video camera, and they're laughing, and they're dragging me towards a car. I was screaming, I was kicking, and what I remember about that day is the people walking down the street, averting their eyes and walking around. As I was about to be pulled into a vehicle, my friend who was circling the block had come around. He starts laying on the horn. People came to hear that. I kicked myself free, jumped in the car, and we drove away. That was before we knew so much about murdered and missing Aboriginal women, and I feel incredibly lucky to survive that day. But there is an upside, and this is going to sound a little crazy. My sons have a resiliency that I'm very proud of. They walk proud. They walk through our neighborhood. My one son, he's very a very dark-skinned, black hair, big guy, is a constant target. But I told him how to walk without looking like a victim, look like you can handle yourself, but not to the point where you look like you're gonna be trouble. There's a fine line. And that's what we teach our kids in the neighborhood that I live in. And I will probably continue to live in Massey Place, Confed Park. It's where my family is, it's where my friends are. And I deal with whether or not I feel safe every day. But I am happy. And I'm not sure if that makes sense, but that's what I have to share.
Thanks. Sultan, you have new Canadians coming here, somewhat vulnerable, new to the area. What's their perceptions of this town? Do they feel safe, and what can the police do?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting us here. Yes, I would say I've shared all the points that they shared here. Yes, they feel safe, and no, they don't feel safe. In Saskatoon, between 2007 and 2012, we had people from 107 countries. So people, depends what country they're coming from. If they're coming from a refugee camp, if they're coming from war-torn countries, everything is safe until something happened in that neighborhood. And many people were coming as immigrants from countries that they are hoping Canada from outside, they see they're always about safety, high standard. There's a perception that Canadian society is very, usually they have a very high expectation from Canadian society as a whole. So when they're coming here and there's lots of things that they don't know, for them everything is safe until they hear things from their friends or neighbors. I'll give you a piece of story of my own experience. I came as a refugee myself from Afghanistan. I'm an Afghan Canadian, been here in 15 years. All my life I live in Meadow Green area. I love my neighborhood. So it's a competition. We all love our neighborhood. It's safe. I lived in Appleby Drive for 5 years, then I moved a block away. We built our house through Habitat for Humanity, and I lived there for the past 8 years now. And we love the neighborhood. We know everybody in that neighborhood, and everything is safe. But when I first came for the first 2 years, I was studying in Sayas, walking in 20th Street every evening when we were going for swimming in Sayas and Harry Belly, and walking 20th Street going back to Appleby Drive. And after I met few students in Sayas, they told me, oh, when you buy a car, please don't drive on 20th Street because it's very unsafe. And I had the understanding that maybe there's another 20th Street somewhere in the city that I don't know about. Because we and my friends, neighbors from, we had few neighbors, few newcomers from Eritrea, Ethiopia, Sudan. We all ganged up, 6 or 7 of us were walking at 9, 10 o'clock after we swimming, coming to. And we never seen anything until hearing from people telling us because I bought a car after a few months, they told me if you drive that way, don't stop in the red light or lock your doors because people will throw you out of the car. So this is, I think there's lots of things comes back to the shoulder of the community. What newcomers hear from other people, there's an education throughout the society. When I went to college, I saw people in college, they never visited west side of the city. They're always lived all their life in the east side, and they had a perception of the west side is another world of another country. Most of the newcomers that we see, they are feeling safe in their neighborhood, but unfortunately we had few incidents in the city that it's kind of scared of those newcomers because it happened right in their neighborhood, right in their street or in their community. They see their shooting or they saw their people were stopped. And based on my own personal understanding, I see, although the statistics shows that the crime goes down, but I see the numbers, maybe I'm listening to the news more often now, or it is the shooting in the west side or the shooting in the city as, I hear it more often than it was before, and the stabbing in the past 5-6 years. So most of the newcomers, when they're coming, they have no idea of the safety of what side of the city is more safe than other sides. So the whole city is seen as one city of Saskatoon, and all the information that they get is getting from the people, from the neighbors, from the friends, from the people that they work with. So as a community, if we work together and not giving people the wrong information, we will have a better community, because that perception, if you scare off about something, then it's kind of, you're fearful of that. And it's when 2-3 people are fearful of something, they make some mistakes that they scare off other people around them. So that kind of creating unsafe community as a whole. Thank you.
Well said. Okay, and I'm just gonna go here and we're gonna go down the row. And this is just a pretty straight up question, well, it could be long. Any changes you'd like to see, i.e. strategies or programs that can help create a culture of safety in the city? Tracy?
I don't think that's a short
Okay.
answer, but I guess just more of a theme. I think that we're headed in the right direction, really doing some really good things and implementing some new programs that are have been really quite helpful.
Okay, so when you say doing good things, what does that mean? Is that partnerships? Is that communication?
Yeah, so
or
it's
is it-
a lot of it's around partnerships. So we've made incredible investments and done excellent work with the Lighthouse, working with people that are dealing with intoxication and mental health issues. We've actually created a mental health strategy court so we can better support individuals with mental health challenges in the court system. We're developing a hotspotting program to help people that have been frequent utilizers of our health services and justice services. So we're on the right pathway with doing a number of things. But the bottom line is that you know, a lot of the symptoms that come forward with mental health and addictions, and that maybe, you know, result in a relationship to justice, have other root causes too, in terms of poverty and cultural safety. And I think that I would really like to see changes around, like I said earlier, building relationships, but by certainly focusing on addressing issues such as racism and poverty and the issues that we need to address to become a closer community, so that we can actually communicate better together, and so that nobody feels excluded and we stop kind of, there's a risk when we're fearful of each other that we're going to create more harm than being able to progress on a good path. And so those are some of the things that I think we would do ourselves well if we worked more on.
Thank you, Tracy. Candace, and what role would the police service play in these strategies and programs?
I was absolutely
Culture of
fascinated by the 80-20 diagram that the chief had put up, and I appreciate, and actually I want you to know I have deep respect for the roles that you do. I can't imagine. You're the person I'd call at 3 o'clock in the morning if I was in crisis, and I thank you for that service. But the 80% of those things that are tying you up away from doing the harder crimes, those 80% things are where relationships are built between the community and that service. So if I'm a parent and my child gets scooped, my interaction with you, this might be a missing person, this is a missing child, or my missing mother went wandering off, or something. So that interaction I have with you in something that may not be a hard crime is going to set up our relationship for when the hard crime does come, if it does and if it does not. So I wonder if there was another way of looking at that 80% as an opportunity to create those relationships that we need to be a safer community. I'd like to look into that.
Huh. Good insight. Candace.
I think that the concept of partnership, collaboration, relationship building is really key, and for older adults it is as well. We have had excellent communication with the Saskatoon Police Service. We have met with the chief around issues of older adults in our city, and we have had recently a consultation with the police service and fire service with older adults. And for that consultation, we also did a survey again of older adults around issues. By far the most common issues that come up for older adults related to crime and safety are frauds and scams as probably number one, abuse by either mostly by relatives or caregivers, and the issues related to abuse within the healthcare system. So as part of the work that we've been doing with the police service and with the fire service, it has been around relationship building and identifying what kinds of strategies work best with older adults. It is important to understand that the issues of older adults are different from youth are different from the adult population for a whole range of different reasons. And we've had a good working relationship with the police service in looking at tackling things like ageism within the police service. How do they respond when they get calls from older adults? Do they understand the issues that can impact the aging process and how that relates to how they interact with an older adult? So there are important initiatives like that underway, and I think that will help to build that community working in collaboration with the police service and community-based organizations. The other issue that is becoming more apparent are older criminals. So criminals are typically young adults. That's the kind of the stereotypical demographic. But as our population ages, there's a lot of experience and expertise in the criminal older adult. So if you think, for instance, of the bank heist recently in London, the majority of the people involved in that heist were older adults, 70 years of age and older. So not only are there older adults, often the crime related primarily to poverty, but it also relates to isolation and connection into a community and retaining that connection. So, Father, they'll be in Stir It Up too. So those were some of the things, and I think it is around creating that dialogue within the community and to recognize that the older adult population does have some uniqueness about it that warrants activity and work. One of the examples, we talked about the police academy, but in several jurisdictions in the country there is a seniors police academy, and so it is bringing older adults together with police services to learn and educate and bring awareness to crime and public safety, and then the older adults act as ambassadors in the community. So it has been a very successful model.
Awesome, thank you. Father Andre, for your constituency, what would you like to see strategies and what role would the police play in that?
Number one, I think it's a change of attitude on the part of all of us. The attitude that whenever somebody gets in trouble, you lock them up and throw away the key, and you don't do any involvement of healing, of therapy, of recovery. And I think the chief that we have today has helped within the police force a fantastic change of attitude. And I'm grateful for that, and the Straight Up guys are all grateful for that, chief, because we feel it, we live it. The attitude that you have, and that you shake my members, you shake their hands, some we call by name. That's immense, little things, but important. And more your police officers have that same attitude, and we acknowledge that. That same attitude has to come from our government, has to come into the courts, has to come into the community. These young men and women are not from Mars. They're from Saskatoon. They are our kids. They are our young men and our young women. They're not bad people. They're not evil, but they're hurting, they're broken, they're alienated, they're abandoned. That's the problem, and that stems back from many, many generations, perhaps for some. And if we maintain that attitude that these are all losers, and the only thing you do is punish them, the problem is going to stay there. But if we can change our attitude that these are our sons, our daughters, they are our nephews and nieces, they are our brothers and sisters, and even if they are not healthy like we think the rest of us are, they're still our kids. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I think is mention it, the community. we really believe that our members have to integrate and reintegrate into the community. And that's why we need your help. Straight Up's not going to do a darn thing unless the community supports us. But they're our kids, your kids. And so we have a lot of people that care about Straight Up, but we need to get more support, and you might want to buy one of our books. Thank you.
Well said, Father Andre. And for his hard work, Father Andre has been acknowledged by the Government of Canada with an Order of Canada. So quite an accomplished gentleman in all his work he's done for the people of Straight Up. Yeah, you bet. I'll buy one of them books there too, Father Andre. And just before I go to Sultan with the last one, I just want to say one thing. These are all represent different organizations and people from the city. If you have questions, cares, concerns, or you want to contact them, we actually put a blue bowl in the back, and there's a piece of paper there. Write your name, your number, and say Straight Up. And then the Straight Up folk will phone you and say, hey, we're Straight Up. What do you need to know? Or the health region. So contact back there. Back to Sultan. So how do the police help with this culture of safety in the community, Sultan? What do we do moving forward? What would you like to see?
I would like to see the two-way of education. Like when we talk about the creating of culture of safety, first we have to know about the culture of people that we are serving. People should know about the police, and police should know about the culture of the community. As I mentioned before, like there's pockets of cultures in the city. And it's unfortunate that police officers should rebuild some of the trust that people are coming from experiences that they have with police from other countries. And also through media, many people when they're coming to Canada, they usually package North America like as a whole, Canadian police officers as the same as American police officers. So there will be a little bit of extra work for the community police to educate people, especially newcomers, either in the school or in the communities, to teach about what the police is doing, the same thing as Chief did this evening. There's lots of information that we did not know. So that part, because many people coming from countries, there is no trust. When you see police, I lived in Pakistan in a refugee camp for 2 years. I apologize for any Pakistanis if they're here running, but it's kind of the reality. If I saw police from 5 blocks away, I turned and go a different way. So it's when I did the research about that and looking at it to different part of the world, we have found at least a handful of countries that people does not trust police. When police come to you or we ask a question from police, we're asking a police about direction, the first thing they do, they will check your pocket, take your money, and then they will deal with the issues that you have. So the second part, I would say, like that's the education of the community, the newcomers, to know what police is all about, what police is doing, and what police is, how they can work together. And there's lots of organizations like Open Door Society, we can facilitate that kind of help, those kind of education. The other part, I would say, the education to police officers, to know about other culture who exist in the city, who are coming, and what are, like how they deal with police in those countries. And if police officers have some education and knowledge of diversity, knowledge of the communication and like cultural communication, intercultural communication, that will help them to better deal with the people from diverse community. And the same again, I'm not advertising Open Door Society, but we are one of the biggest settlement agencies in the province that we deal with all newcomers. So we will be able to help in that area too. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Sultan. Yeah, and actually for all of them.